Yeah! This is the all-new Fox Podium fork that I get to borrow from N+1 Bikes. This is a new fork just released by Fox that costs a whopping $2,000. So the big question is it worth it? I'm super hyped to try out this fork because this thing just looks insane. But since it launched, I have not watched one single review video. I don't want to hear the marketing lines and jargon. I want to figure this fork out for myself. The Fox Podium is an upside down fork, so the stanchions are right here, unlike most mountain bike suspension. And I've ridden upside down forks before on the Nikolai Park bike, and again just a few weeks ago on the Santa Cruz V10, and they make a lot of sense. You get way more bushing overlap, meaning you got a bushing right here and a bushing like right here. Normally on a fork, the bushings are just a couple inches apart, so that should mean a smoother fork with less binding. And with the oil sitting in this part, gravity is always having the oil sitting right at the foam rings and the dust wipers, so they should be saturated at all times. But my favorite part about these forks though is the stanchion guards. They just look super cool. But in order to run this fork, it does create some problems. Today I'm gonna install it on my Pivot Mach 6. This is my full 27.5 enduro bike that's still on sale at N+1 Bikes for $31.99. But there's only 100 units left until they're gone forever. This bike can easily be converted to a mullet, but the problem is the Podium won't take just any old boost front wheel. It needs a 20x110 downhill boost axle. So where do I even get one of those? Well, there's a lot of options. I could get a downhill boost front hub and lace it up to my wheel over there. I could buy a completely new wheel, or I found out that you can buy a conversion kit for an Industry 9 front hub and get that converted. So let's see how this goes. So the wheel I'm taking off, a Reynolds Carbon, has an Industry 9 front hub, but it's center lock, and the conversion only works for a 6-bolt i9 hub. Also, I'm not sure if this is okay to lightly use a mallet to tap out the bearings. I couldn't find a video or a document on how to do this. I'm very lightly tapping it in, almost no force at all. If you know, let me know in the comments. And that was super easy. And how cool is that you can just convert it like that? And I think Raceface makes the Era hub like that too. I'm not sure about any other brands, but I just hope that that little metal shim in there doesn't get all cockeyed once I take the axle out. But let's talk more about the fork. Besides the upside down design, the damper is still the same Grip X2 damper as my Fox 38. So what's so different about this fork to warrant the price? Well, the crown and the upper tubes are absolutely massive. This means the fork should have really good front to back stiffness, but we've been told for years by marketing that flexing is a good thing. So I wonder, could this fork be too stiff for the Mach 6? And here's the kicker, the stanchions are only 36 millimeters. And maybe that's to keep the weight down because this fork weighs 2,700 grams. Then, just like the Fox factory, the Grip X2 damper has high and low speed compression and high and low speed rebound. So with this fork costing $800 more than the Fox 38 and weighing 500 grams more, I really hope this thing has a huge performance upgrade and it better be a whole lot smoother. All right, let's get it installed. As I was installing the fork, I started to get a little bit worried. On the bike stand, these tubes in the fork looked massive. And remember, this is my small 27.5 enduro bike. The Podium I have here is 170 millimeters, though you can order as a 160 or swap out the air spring. And that's one area I feel that's lacking with this $2,000 Fox fork. My Intend Infinity upside down fork costs about the same, and the travel can be adjusted internally without buying new parts. Same with the Manitou Dorado. For $2,000, I wish Fox had included that flexibility. Now up front, converting this to a mullet, I'm running my Crank Brothers Synthesis Enduro Carbon 29er, and by adding 10 millimeters more travel on top of going mullet,
the geometry does get affected. And check it out, there's all sorts of warning stickers about the hose routing. It's kind of funny. Compared to the other upside down fork designs, Fox did this very well. Although the clip to bolt it onto the stanchion guard did crack when I pushed it onto the hose, and it felt like very brittle plastic, and hopefully Fox sees this video and gets that changed. Normally the hose clamp on Fox forks is like pretty soft plastic, so hopefully they change that in the future. One last thing to bring up before we go ride. I've seen online that a lot of people are talking about this fork binding once you tighten the axle down. You may have seen those clips on Instagram. And I've had that issue before and have a bushing resizing tool, and as much as I'd like to check that, I really don't feel like taking apart the fork, removing the damper, and removing the air spring. I'd rather just ride it first and see if I can feel any harshness, but I did notice the Fox user manual says to tighten one side of the axle pinch bolts, cycle the fork a little, and then tighten the other side. But with that, it's time to go ride.
All right, made it out to Lake Leatherwood, and this should be a perfect spot to test out this fork. This place has some drops and lots of G-outs. Now I've got the Mach 6 in full bike park mode now. With swapping it over to mullet, it reduced the reach by 20 millimeters, so I'm sitting at 445 reach now, way shorter than I usually like. But honestly, it doesn't feel that bad just bouncing around the parking lot. I also threw on a softer spring in the shock and a DH casing in the back, so I'm pretty excited to feel how this bike is. Now, upside down forks are a little different to set up. The air valve is on the bottom, which makes me a little bit nervous. Sometimes when you pull the pump off, a little bit of oil can squirt out. And with the rotor right there, that's a pretty scary combo. And to start out, I'm running Fox's recommended rebound and compression, plus the stock 2 air tokens. Just bouncing around, I can already tell that this fork feels stout, like front to back, I guess. Though with these forks, there's no fork arch, so they tend to get a little flexy from side to side, and I think that's called torsional stiffness. Oh, that's not as bad as the Manitou Dorado, but I couldn't even feel the torsional flex on the Dorado anyway. And one more quirk before I go ride. With no fork arch, there's an issue with my bike rack. Normally this ratchet arm sits right up against the arch, but now it's clamping straight to the leg. I think that might cause some like rubbing and scratching over time, and I don't want to devalue a $2,000 fork. And I guess I could clamp it right here, but I'm worried I'll hit a bump, it'll turn a little and just dump the bike off. But let's get kitted up and go ride. All right, here we go for my run. Now, this is my first time on a regular bike since my downhill trip. So, gonna be referencing the downhill bike quite a bit. And it's nice being on a regular bike, a regular enduro at this place. All right, here we go. Little jump. Oh yeah, little jump. Oh, it's nice being on an enduro bike again. Yeah. Nice. Oh, this is so fun. Oh, they redid that. This fork really does feel stout, just like a downhill fork. This is awesome. Now we're going into the double drop to flat. Oh yeah, that was good. Wow. Man, that first run felt so dang good. And it actually feels like I'm riding a downhill fork. I'm not pulling your chain here. And the next time you're riding your bike, when you're on like a simple single track or maybe like the Greenway or something, look down at your fork when you're hitting like slight little bumps. And a lot of the times your fork won't even be moving. So that to me means that it's kind of like bound up in the bushings, or maybe it's not breaking away because the oil or something. So that just shows the importance of a really smooth fork. And I think they nailed it on this fork right here. I really like the performance so far, but I want to hit an even chunkier trail. So let's go check it out. All right, here we go on DH5. Pretty good rock gardens and some pretty good G-outs on this trail. All right, here's where the rock gardens are. This fork stays really planted during these chattery sections. Yeah. Man, this Mach 6 is awesome as a mullet. Little jump here. Yeah. Wow, this Mach 6 was such a beast in park bike mode, and running it as a mullet was super fun too. But the real question is, does this fork justify the price? And I can say this Podium fork honestly feels like a downhill fork. Super smooth, nice and stiff, and it tracks the ground really well. But compared to a regular Fox 38, I'd say the gains are marginal, maybe like 15% better. And honestly, I need to try this on an e-bike before I'm totally convinced about it. So is it worth it? The truth is, it depends. $2,000 means very different things depending on who you are. For some, that's pocket change. For others, like myself, that's literally a mortgage payment. I think this fork is worth it if 1, you can afford it. 2, you want true downhill performance. 3, you like turning heads with shiny new parts. You like when people go, whoa, is that the new Podium fork? And last, you're the type of person who likes being an early adopter. And I think resale value on this fork will hold up too. I couldn't find a single used Podium fork on Pinkbike, but I bet if you rode this and sold it like lightly used, you could probably get $1,500 no problem. If you do want to buy one of these forks, N+1 Bikes has them in stock, and you can use my code EVAN11 for 11% off. That's a pretty good chunk of savings. Or heck, you could even buy the Pivot Mach 6 with the Podium fork installed on it, mullet setup for $49.99. Just tell them I sent you. But that's it for this video. What do you think? Is this fork worth it? And should I buy one for myself? Drop a comment below and I'll see you in the next one.